Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're of course going to be talking about the NBA bubble, and specifically the 22 teams that were invited to the bubble and one flaw with every single one of those teams. Because even as good as many of the teams are and as championship caliber as many of them appear to be, every single team is going to have problems with them, and this is just kind of a nice way to really evaluate where all of these teams are at as we head into the bubble. But quickly, before the video gets started, I want to let you guys know about a future video that's upcoming. Next Thursday, July 30th, will be the 2020 NBA Illogical Awards. And this is a big deal to me. This is kind of the first series that really took off on this channel. It's one of my favorite things that I do. And I get comments from people all the time telling me that that is how they found my channel, is through the NBA Illogical Awards. So that will be next Thursday, July 30th. If you don't know what that is, you can check them out on my channel. If you have suggestions for awards as well as for players that you think should win those awards, leave those down in the comment section below. And you can also follow me on Twitter because I'm going to be doing some polls over there as well to figure out who will end up winning the awards. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so to begin, we're going to be in the Eastern Conference, and then we'll move over to the Western Conference just because there's less teams in the East. And first up is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. And for this group, it's honestly really difficult to find a weakness, but what I'm going to go with is just the offense outside of Giannis. Like the scenario would be Giannis is either in foul trouble or he's just not on the floor in general, and you're counting on Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe and guys like that to provide offense. And they are good offensive players, but they definitely can have their struggles in the postseason, specifically as on-ball creators. I don't love Eric Bledsoe in the postseason, and Chris Middleton is a very, very good player, but there can definitely be some offensive droughts when other guys are not making shots off the ball. Where do they go without Giannis? Now, they've gone through a lot of the season trying to kind of figure those things out because Giannis only plays around 30 minutes a game, which is a bit abnormal for an MVP candidate. So it seems like they've got that figured out, but still in the postseason, that's something that would make me nervous if I was a Bucks fan. Next up now is the Toronto Raptors. This is another team that has a lot of strong points. It's difficult to find a flaw, but for me, I'm going to go once again on the offensive end, and I'm going to go with kind of who their late game closer is. And I understand that there is championship experience on this roster. Kyle Lowry can get some buckets at the end of games. Pascal Siakam has had a great season. Fred VanVleet has been a clutch player in the past. But when they really, really need a bucket down the stretch, it's not that I don't believe they have a guy that they can go to. It's just who are they going to go to and are they going to be able to make the shot? I know that's a very nitpicky thing, but without Kawhi there, that's going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on with this team as a potential flaw. Number 3 now, the Boston Celtics, and it's weird because this guy's such a good player for them, but it's going to be Kemba Walker, and it's both durability and availability, but it's also just the small point guard thing in the postseason. I think Kemba Walker is a very, very good player, but really throughout his career, we haven't gotten that much of a chance to see him in the postseason, and how well he's going to be able to score or stay healthy is definitely something that would make me nervous if I was a Celtics fan. And they have guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown that can score if Kemba is having an off night. But if Kemba Walker isn't playing at like a borderline all-star level for them, it's going to be difficult for them to make a deep postseason run. So that'd be something that I would keep an eye on. Number 4 now, the Miami Heat. I'm just going to go with outside shooting and spacing because I feel like they pretty much have everything else that they need. They've got playmaking, they've got scoring, they've got defense, they've got versatility, and they do have some shooters on the roster. But if I'm going to point to one thing about this team that makes me a little bit nervous, it would be that outside shooting and the inability of this team at times to put together good shooting nights, and that can absolutely lose you a game and a series if you're not knocking down shots, and that would be a question mark for me. Next up now is the Indiana Pacers, and I'm going to go with perimeter scoring, specifically if Victor Oladipo isn't there. Jeremy Lamb is also not going to be there due to injury, and at that point, you're basically counting on Malcolm Brogdon and a couple of other guys to provide all of your perimeter scoring, and that's a lot of pressure to put on him. Next up is the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's really simple. It's how good they are away from home. This is such a good home team throughout the year and such a bad road team relative to their standings throughout the year that definitely makes me nervous. And is this environment in Orlando just going to be something that is not going to work for them? They have other issues as well, spacing and otherwise, but the biggest flaw, if you're looking at their entire resume for this season, is their inability to win games away from home. And obviously they're going to spend the entirety of whatever postseason run they have in Orlando. That's something to keep an eye on for this group. Next up now, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't even feel the need to really talk about them that much. They can't score because they're playing with a roster of half replacement players. They're not going to be very good defensively either. They might as well just treat this like summer league league, try and get guys like Karis LeVert plenty of touches and opportunities and move on. Moving on to the Orlando Magic, this has been a similar story for them for a while, and it's perimeter playmaking and creation, and then also shooting in there as well. Basically, a lot of offensive stuff for this Magic team is going to be an issue, and I think that's going to continue to be an issue in Orlando at the restart. Unless someone like Aaron Gordon takes a big offensive jump, that's going to continue to be a struggle for them. And last up in the East, quickly, again, it's the Washington Wizards. It's going to be perimeter scoring, playmaking, stuff like that as well. Without Bradley Beal there, they're going to have a hard time scoring, just like the Nets and the Magic. And now we move over to the Western Conference, where things are arguably more exciting because there's more teams, but also just because I feel like the teams are more interesting. At the top, it's the LA Lakers, and it's going to be the perimeter / backcourt depth, because when you don't have Rajon Rondo or Avery Bradley, they're going to have an issue trying to figure out who really is going to take up more minutes in the backcourt when they do need to spell some of the backcourt players. So, I mean, Caruso is going to get more minutes. KCP is going to be out there. Maybe Quinn Cook makes an appearance. It's going to be kind of a plug and play situation. And the deeper they get into the postseason, the more they can shorten up their rotation, but that would be something to keep an eye on for them. Next up is the LA Clippers, and this is a team that I still feel really confident about potentially winning the title this year. But one thing that I do have question marks about is their end of game lineup. That's been an issue for them in a couple of games, specifically against the Lakers, and trying to figure out if they're going to have Lou Williams out there for scoring, or if they're going to have someone else out there that can guard a little bit more on the perimeter, like Marcus Morris, or if Marcus Morris is going to be an issue being out there because he's going to take shots. That kind of stuff is a little bit too up in the air for me at this point in the season, and something I'm definitely keeping an eye on for this group. Next up now for the Denver Nuggets, it's really two things, but I feel like they go hand in hand. One, it's how they're going to create offense down the stretch. If they're just going to go to Nikola Jokic, if they're just going to run the regular offense, whatever's going to happen there, it's tough to find buckets down the stretch when you're going to a big guy specifically, and Jamal Murray is their best perimeter creator. But outside of that, and kind of going hand in hand with that, is a general lack of top-end talent is the best way to put it, specifically on the perimeter. That could be an issue for this group, whether it's creation just during the game or specifically when they need a bucket at the end of games. Moving on to the Utah Jazz, and it's their ability to match up with different teams, specifically teams like the Houston Rockets that really space the floor well. Rudy Gobert's had a ton of issues staying on the floor in past postseasons, and I don't know if their lineup and their roster is just too rigid and how much of an issue that's going to be. Maybe it won't be one, but that's definitely a question mark and a concern for me, is how much they can really change what they do offensively and defensively to adjust for other teams. Next up now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's just their ability to defend on the perimeter. Chris Paul can still guard a little bit. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a developing defender, but when they go to those three-guard lineups with those two guys and Dennis Schroeder, and then you've got like Gallinari and Steven Adams out there, are they going to be able to defend at a high enough level to be able to kind of tread water with that three-guard lineup out there that has been so effective for them throughout the season? I don't know. So perimeter defense is a bit of a question mark there for me in Oklahoma City. Next up now, the Houston Rockets, probably the most interesting bubble team to me at this point, and it's just going to be how the small ball stuff works. Like, are they going to have an issue that they run into that doesn't have a solution because they're playing against a team like the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic is absolutely destroying them. They don't really have a five to defend them. That's going to be an issue. The interior defense is definitely going to be a flaw and something could completely derail everything they have going this postseason. Moving on now to the Dallas Mavericks, and for me, it's going to be front court depth, specifically without Dwight Powell there, who is a player that I really like. It's kind of like Kristaps Porzingis and some other guys that play kind of like the combo 3-4, and then not a whole lot else in terms of depth up front. So that's a concern for me. If Kristaps gets hurt and misses a few games, or if he's in foul trouble or something, front court depth could certainly be an issue in Dallas. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm just going to go with inexperience when you're talking about guys like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant specifically leading this team. Whether you're getting into the postseason or just kind of fighting for that 8th seed, inexperience is going to be an issue for this group, and whether they're going to be able to handle the pressures in the different environment there in Orlando is something that I would definitely keep an eye on. They do have veterans on the roster, guys like Jonas Valanciunas that have been to the postseason multiple times, but still something to keep an eye on in Memphis. Next up now, the Portland Trailblazers, and it's just perimeter defense, similar to the Oklahoma City thing. Do they have enough wings to defend against teams that have really good perimeter scorers, teams like the Lakers, teams like the Clippers that have bigger wings? How are they going to be able to match up on the perimeter? That's been a kind of a consistent issue for this Trailblazers team for a couple of years now, and something that would definitely worry me if I was a Blazers fan. A couple of teams left now. The New Orleans Pelicans are up next, and it's kind of an inexperienced thing, but it's also a bit of a shooting issue there in New Orleans, and it's not having Zion. So really, The bottom line is just it's uncertainty. When is Zion going to come back? How are these guys going to perform if they do make the postseason, or just with the pressure of trying to race for the 8th seed? Do they have enough shooting? So really, it's just uncertainty for me that makes me nervous about the Pelicans. Third to last now, the Sacramento Kings, and it's just team cohesion, if that makes any sense. There've been issues in Sacramento for, I don't know, 15 years, but this season specifically, there've been some Luke Walton problems. There have been some Buddy Hield problems. Now Marvin Bagley isn't going to be there due to injury, and it's just, are they going to be able to come together the way that they were pre-suspension and really turn things on and make a push for that 8th seed? That's something that I would pay attention to for this Kings team. Second to last now, the San Antonio Spurs is just, do they have enough top-end talent? They have, you know, LaMarcus Aldridge, they have DeMar DeRozan, they have a couple of other young, interesting players, but do they have the top-end talent and more specifically the outside shooting to actually make some noise in the bubble? I have no idea, but that would definitely be a flaw for that group among honestly many, but that's the most glaring. And then last up, we get to the Phoenix Suns and its perimeter defense as well for them. Are they going to have guys that can consistently defend against some of the better wings that they're going to play against in the Orlando bubble? I don't know. I know that Mikal Bridges is a developing defender, but outside of that, I don't know how much they're bringing to the table on the defensive end in terms of their wings, and that would be something that would make me nervous if I was a Suns fan. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. As I said in the beginning, keep an eye out for this Illogical Awards video that will be coming up next week. Let me know down in the comment section below who you think should be up for certain awards, any award ideas you have, and follow me on Twitter because there will be a ton of info coming out over there as well. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.